Hey.
Thank you very much for having me in your company. I'm very excited. I have to kind of like poise a little bit because I see all these beautiful faces of all the love of my lives that I have here. And now I have Sister Ya, now one of my babies as well. I love to call people my babies because I have a spirit of grandmother, and but it's really love is unconditional love. And I'm very happy that we are having this discussion. My crowning was really about creating a bridge between the diaspora and Africa, because there is so many elements that needs to be addressed. And I think because I did ask, why me? Why can't you pick somebody that is more authentically African than I am? I'm kind of like a little bit of mix. I grew up in Africa. I grew up in Europe. I lived in America. Why don't you just pick somebody local who really knows and is so imbued with Ashe from the ground? They were like, no, ancestors say it was about you. And I was like, so what now? What now? What am I going to do? Am I going to stay here in Dimbelenge, in my kingdom, and just, wait? And they were like, no, you go, you'll find your mission. My mission from the first time I came to the United States, I was 21 years old, was to, when I met the people from the United States, the African family that I had here, I realized that it was something amazing, something that I could have never imagined, because I didn't have a clue of what was the African experience in the United States. All I knew about the United States and the UK and Jamaica and all was what I saw on TV. And it was either twofold. One, we were great at entertaining, singing, dancing, moving our butts, and then we were great with the ball or running to chase a medal. Or we were gangsters and dangerous and prostitutes and maids. So this is the image I grew up with when I grew up in Africa, because this is what we saw on TV. We saw these, TV shows like Starsky and Hutch and all this stuff, Kojak back in the days, you can situate me, that really portrayed either one or the other, but no in between, no regular people. Either you were a genius in only those fields of entertainment and sports, or you were a failure. So coming to the United States, meeting the African families that I met here, learning about the experience, because that also, we didn't know anything about what happened. The first time I knew what happened was when the series Ruth came out. I didn't know what happened to the African people when they came to America. Because guess what? I didn't even know that people from Africa came to America. They don't teach us that in school. When I grew up, they didn't teach us that, because we came out of colonization. Until today, our books in schools in Africa are manufactured and written in Europe. Until this day. Okay? So whatever we know in Africa, whatever our kids know from school, from our education, all the manuals are made from Europe. That is one of the big reasons why the brother Gaddafi was a problem, because he had decided to fund a lot of new education material for the entire continent. And that wasn't sitting pretty, not only because of the content that would be printed, because of the content. See how quick I am? That's the martial art, by the way. But also because of the money, because the textbook industry is money making. So we have to understand a lot of what's going on in Africa. So my image of the Africans that were abroad were really very shallow. My understanding of the African experience outside of Africa was very shallow. And also, the brain dirtying process that go on is that we are not good enough. The Africans were just not good enough. And the only way we can get a chance to get close to what it is to be a human was to assimilate. Meaning, let go of everything that makes you African, including your skin color and your hair texture, everything. leave the languages, traditional languages behind, leave your way of dressing behind. So you go to a lot of African countries, men and women will go out of their way to have a three-piece suit, wear a wavy, long Brazilian, hair, to put color, bleach their skin. I know kids in Congo that don't speak Lingala. They don't speak a native language. They only speak French. And you know the worst thing? They don't speak a correct French because the parents are not native French speakers. So they prefer to have children who speak no language, who have mastery of no language, rather than speak a correct African language, because it's better if you only speak French or English, if you dress like a European, if you behave like a European, if you eat like a European, if you entertain yourself like a European. So that policy of assimilation has started to happen once they decided to colonize the continent. So make no mistake, many people in Africa are completely brain dirtied. And we have a lot to do. We have, coming to the diaspora, you have a lot of work to do to voice the need, to tell them how important it is to hold on to this culture. And this is something I learned on this side of the ocean. Because when I started to know the African families in the United States and other coming from Cuba or Jamaica or the Barbados, I started to realize that one of the things that kept their strength was because they held on to so much of their ancestral culture. That music, that food, that way of dancing, all this is not, those are not minute detail. It's just the same as water. In those drums, there is so much, and I'm not going to go into detail in that because you have to be initiated in some ways to understand the type of coding information that we have in our drumming. But this is what our ancestors did to preserve their psyche and not to lose, the sense of what it is to be a human being. So that's the things that I recovered. And when they were asking me, hey, where are you from? I was like, oh, I'm from Congo. Oh, yeah, you are from Congo? That's weird. How is it? And I realized I didn't really know much about Congo. I only knew about my neighborhood where I grew up, Kinshasa, the city life, modern city life. But I didn't know anything in depth about my tradition and my culture. My father did not teach me his native language, Chiluba, because he was ashamed that I would speak French with a Chiluba accent. So I speak Lingala because I grew up in Kinshasa, but I don't speak the Luba language. I'm learning it now. But my father would never spoke Lingala at home. My father only spoke French. So to recover our memory is a process that we do together. But the strongest vector is to make that desire happen is the children of the diaspora. Because you had to, you were, that was like almost like your secret weapon to keep your integrity, despite all the abuse that you went through. And you find common ground. And this is what is driving you today to say, enough is enough. We have to unite. Because you already have that in your genes. I was telling my sister, yesterday about the fact that you are Africa United. Because in your blood, you have all these so-called tribes. You have found a way to make Africa a concept. Because before that, there's no such thing as an Africa. And Africa comes from the mind of people like Marcus Garvey. So who is Marcus Garvey? But the collection of all the experience of all the Africans that were deported and poured into him. So this is one of your role, your most important role and your most important obligation, because not only you are driven, but also you have access to the information. We don't have access to this information in Africa. A lot of these websites that you have, we don't have access to. We don't have access to internet readily available like you guys have. Because you know what? Internet is very expensive. And most of the time when you can afford internet access, you can only pay for WhatsApp and Facebook. So this is barely the only information we have. So most of you guys are educators before anything. And the reason why I'm saying that, and I'm stressing on this point, is because when we prepare program and we design programs to go to Africa, we have to be very, very clear on what is their understanding of your experience and why is the desire there. You know that I've been in Africa and people laughing at me. They're like, look at you. You almost made it out of here. You were in the United States. You were like a European. What happened to you for you to be yanked back into our savagery? Wearing cowrie shells and leopard teeth. Because for them, becoming you, a Westerner, it's a progress. And what I'm doing by accepting the crown and accepting to sit on a traditional throne is a regression. So when you come from the United States or from the UK or Jamaica with your dreadlocks and they look at you like, really? What are you guys looking for? We're trying to be you and you're trying to be like our ancestors. We're trying to be anything but our ancestors. So we need to make sure that they understand that the reason why you kept your sanity and the reason why we are so strong today, despite that you are swimming against the current, is because your ancestor decided to make a pact to unite and to hold tight to what was the core values of what we have come from in Africa. And since they still have a lot of it, not a lot, but they have, not everything, but a lot of it still there intact, then you can encourage them to bring back the value and see value into their culture and their traditions. Because a lot of people don't. And the few that do, sometimes they are crooks. I have said, I'm a queen. We have crooks. They say, oh, look at the African American coming or the Jamaican guy coming to Africa. We're going to do a ooga booga, ooju ooju, and we're going to, pour so. No, some people understand there is a stream of money to be made because of your desire to return. So we have to be very careful and very vigilant that it's not something that is only played on the surface and we only play the drum as a folklore. Our culture is not folklore. Our culture is, those are elements, those are healing elements and elements that can habilitate us to make sound, reflection so we can yield to the right decisions as a community. But we have to be aware of the situation. And this is one of the things that I love to have this dialogue, because I didn't know anything about African experience besides in Africa. And I learned so much. I have families, I have sisters that are African-American sisters. They told me the story. I met their parents, I met their grandparents. I studied, I listened, I sat by the feet of people like Dr. Ben Yoakanan and Professor Smalls and Professor Jeffries and Dr. Kress. And I read all this stuff. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't be who I am today. When they called me for the throne, I would have overlooked it. I was a modern African. I was almost an evolved human being. Are you kidding me? PhDs and degrees, masters and all that stuff, dressing with my Chanel clothes and Gucci's and all that. If I didn't have these people, these ancestors, all these brave uncles and aunts and mothers and sisters and brothers like you, your parents who fought so that we can keep this identity strong, like it's in Brazil, I wouldn't be who I am today. Sister, I told you yesterday, I became more African when I came to the United States than when I lived in Congo. It's true. This is an experience we have to talk about, because still today, Africa, they are going there to brain dirty us, to put us through a machine of a cleansing. And they used to have that already during the colonization. I speak about what they call the evolved. The evolved. My father was born during colonization. And they had in Belgium, in Congo that used to belong to Belgium. They had a department. That was a department, like education department, like the military. They had a department called the Department of the Evolved. The Department of the Evolved was to identify people that would accept to gain some privileges in order for them to leave their culture behind and then gain privileges, like the Uncle Tom or whatever they explain, the coons and so forth. So they had a department that was monitoring that. Select few people, couple of people to do like menial work, but around the white Europeans, colonials, teach them some small skills, and then allow them to live separate from the savage that were their family and so forth. So they could live in separate neighborhoods. They had a different type of housing. The children would go to the evolved school children. The wife would have to cook a certain way. They could not speak native tongues anymore. They could not eat with their hands. They could not. It was insane. Basically, when you accepted that, you had a card, like a card, written on it, evolved. So you were not a regular black. You were not a regular African. You were not a savage African anymore. You were not a human being, but you were an evolved African. And everybody were aspiring to get that, because with evolved status, you could have a bicycle. Now the men could wear pants instead of wearing shorts, even if they were 70 years old. They would not call you boy anymore because you were evolved. You had right to some kind of property. Your kids could have a certain education. So to gain those privileges, you had to accept to surrender your traditions. And this mentality is still there today. When I go to Kinshasa, I go to visit my father. He has 3 younger children. None of them speaks Lingala correctly. None of them speaks Chiluba. And they don't even speak French correctly. And those are my brothers, born and raised in Kinshasa. And that's just an example. My father was supposed to be on the throne, not me. But when they proposed the throne to him, he said, I'm not doing this crazy, savage, traditional stuff. I don't have time for that. I'm a diplomat, I'm a politician, an ambassador, I'm a doctor of this and doctor of that, I'm a lawyer, I'm a this. It took me to go from the United States, thank God, to all these elders that helped me understand the wealth of the immaterial heritage that we have from our ancestors. For me to go and say, I accept. And to completely transform my life and to be this voice, because I have had this experience myself. I grew up in a home of evolved. And now I understand the value of the experience of my elders, of my African, elders, and all that have been accumulated, all the knowledge and wisdom accumulated over thousands of years. How do you think it makes me feel when they called African idiots all over from the time I was a child till I'm an adult in the university, until I discovered that mathematics, they're doing mathematics in Congo 25,000 years ago? How do you think it made me feel? Do you think they're teaching that to the kids in Congo? They don't tell them?
No, absolutely not.
25,000 years ago, we're doing mathematics, and they even invented a tool, a first calculator. 25,000 years ago. So we're not talking about 25,000 years ago. We're swinging from tree to tree. We're talking about we have civilization. We are thinking, mathematical thinking. We are designing things. We are organizing. We have kingdoms, and we have communities, and we are having this dialogue and engagement with nature, so that we progress or we develop without harming the environment. How did we do that for thousands and thousands of years? So all these things, they are in our books here. They are not in libraries in Congo. You're not going to find that even in the library in university. They're still doing training in university. They're training us to be like Mike, but not like us.
Absolutely.
Not like Kitenge. Not like Lumumba. They're training us to be like Mike, to be like John, to be like Smith. Even our names. In Congo, most people have a Christian name. I have my name Diambi thanks to Mobutu. When Mobutu came to power, he's like, that's enough. Why our kids are called Jack, Paul, Smith, and whatever? Put back the name, the authentic name that they had from their ancestors. And people complained about it. He was a dictator because of that. I'm not giving him a blessing as saying that he was not a dictator, but he wasn't a dictator by himself there. That's another discussion. But one thing he did, he said, enough with this. We have to be proud of being who we are. We don't have to wear ties and suits and all. No. We can make our own. We are women.
Right.
Don't wear pants no more. That's enough. We don't want women with pants. We want women dressed in a respectful manner and beautiful women. So character. So that's how I get my name Diambi from. Because when I was born in Belgium, they didn't want to name a savage name. I could have my last name that was a savage name, Kabatuswila, but my first name, I need to be baptized. It has to be a Christian name. Diambi was not allowed on my birth certificate in Belgium. I had to wait to get to Congo 6 months later to get my name Diambi on my official documents. So we have to talk and exchange and talk about our experience just the same way as I learned about what happened here. I'm still learning about what happened here. I'm still in shock when I see that they're showing public lynching in loops of my brothers and my sons being assassinated in broad daylight in front of people filming. And I'm like, okay, I get it. You did a good job filming, but what about, why is it that phone was not thrown at the police, or why didn't you jump at what is it preventing? Why is it that we're still sitting and watching? What is going on? And then it's on a loop. That's public lynching right there. Because they should at least have the respect to blur the face of our brothers who are being lynched. If it was not a black man, every time this kind of incident, they would at least blur the face of the person out of respect for the dead. But they don't even do it. It's like we're killing a dog. So we have a long way to go. We have a lot to talk about. And this is what I've been doing for the past 4 years. I've been engaging every single community that I can to just have this small conversation. So you can ask me questions, I can ask you questions, and then we can identify our areas of strength, our resources, and then identify the areas where we have carences, where we have lacks, and where we have needs to be met. And then we can match them together. And then we can have all your beautiful minds with all the beautiful skills that you have accumulated. And what I do not want to do is to encourage anybody to do ghettos. I don't want you to go to Africa and have a city of the Americans or the city of the repatriated. That's going to be it. That was the experience already done when they did Liberia. And look at what happened in Liberia. How many people died from this experience? We have to do some things so that our communities heal together and become integrated into each other, and then we grow together. We cannot say, look, we're gonna have a city here for the people coming from the West, and it's gonna be amazing, nice, clean. You're gonna be, and then we have over there the bushes with all the savage. We have to be very mindful not to do that, because it's happened already. You have areas in Africa where we have some people like the African American community in Ghana. They only live among African Americans, not fault of their own, but because the people in Ghana were not necessarily ready to receive them and understand why they would come back, why, and to understand how different are we from each other and how we have to work to create symbiosis again. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And I'm very honored when you bring me in this panel and you give me a few minutes, and I know I speak and because I know I have to go, but at least you can start reflecting on that. And everybody here know that you have my phone number. Any question, you can always call the Queen and say, Queen, Mama, tell me about this. What about that? What about this? We have to talk to each other. That's why I go to Brazil. That's why I go to Cuba. That's why I want to go to Haiti. That's why I want to go to Jamaica. That's why I want to go to, because The talking is not just the talking. The most important we did was the libation. When we are together and we do those rituals, we change the paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, the talking is important, but beyond that, what is most important is the rituals that we do, the drum circles that we do, the libation that we do, the recitation, like the poetry, you know. It's so important because this transcends the mind. The gatekeepers, the ones who have been trained to make us feel like we were not worth it, they are still there. And it's a daily fight. I don't care who you are. You can look as African as you want. We're still living under a Western paradigm. And the last thing I want to say is that we don't want to do things against people. It's not, I don't have any need to do anything against anyone, but we have to do things for ourselves. And when we do things for ourselves, it will benefit us, but it will also benefit the whole, because the whole is damaged because it's been polluted. Not just polluted because the air polluted, but polluted up here and polluted in the heart. So this work of cleansing ourselves is the beginning of cleansing the entire system. African understands system better than anybody else. We are the masters of system theory. We are the masters of fractal mathematics. So there is no one who knows how system function better than we do. So we know that we don't have to break the whole thing down to tear it up. Sometimes it's just a matter of changing one little thing. And that thing, it's ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Something small. Change, know thyself, so we can restore thyself, and we will see how the whole system will change. But we cannot expect anybody else to come and do it for us. No one will show up to save no Africans. No one will show up.
Nope.
If they're not showing up for their own people, they will not show up for us. So it's not no hate there. It's all a lot of love out everywhere, but we gotta do for us first. And there we can be use for the entire Earth community. So this is what I wanted to share with you, my friends, today. Thank you.
Ashe.
Thank you, Queen.
Ashe, ashe, ashe.